Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another edition of Stars, Stripes, and Anfield Nights. With me today, I have Brandon. How are you feeling today, Brandon?
I'm feeling great. I'm like hot to go over here, man. I'm good to talk about just about anything with the Reds going, even with the little down over the weekend, but up today. It's gonna be good stuff. I see you're rocking a new haircut, so I know you're feeling probably pretty good today.
Yes, indeed. I had to get rid of the longer hair. I felt like it was time for a change. Maybe Saturday's defeat had something to do with that, but felt like just starting fresh. And I was a little worried for the first 3 minutes when AC Milan and our American brethren, Christian Pulisic, decided to lace one into the bottom left-hand corner. I was worried that it was going to be a long night and potentially the exact opposite of what we needed. But lo and behold, Reds pulled it out, and in convincing form, they could have scored so many more. Uh, we'll start with before we get into happy times of today, Brandon. I just wanted to touch base on what was your feelings after the game on Saturday against Nottingham Forest, because definitely cannot just brush that under the rug.
It was a frustrating day. It's a game that I think we're going to have to get a little bit used to. Obviously, it's a new system, it's a new manager, new expectations. There's going to be some growing pains. You just really wish it wouldn't happen. Growing pains wouldn't happen at home against a team that you should be beating. Or that growing pains would be a 1-1 draw, not a 1-0 defeat, especially with City being just as machine as they usually have been, like just coming out the gates looking like they're not missing a step. Frustrating day. I was disappointed, which I think a lot of people also were as well, that Slot did not really rotate the squad that much. Didn't make much sense. I talked about last week, I think, on the show, or maybe the week before. When was the last time I was ever on? I was talking about, like, this is where we'll see how much he trusts the squad. And if we're going off that, which obviously shouldn't go too much off of it, doesn't seem like he trusts the squad that as much as maybe we hope. But yeah, it was a disappointing day. I would have to give credit Nottingham Forest. That's a great goal that they scored. Like, every angle is like, that's just a really well taken goal. Like, it's just, sometimes you get beat by the wonder goal. But it was a frustrating day. It was not many people really covered themselves in glory.
No, totally agree with that. I was definitely one of the ones who was left more frustrated. Feel like the LFC transfer room chat and the WhatsApp group was kind of divided between people who were not happy and people who were like, it's only the fourth game of the season. I was definitely on the side of not too happy with the performance, especially coming off the three-win start. I know there's a lot of reasons, like you said, rotation, international break. There's a lot of stuff that you can make excuses for, but for me, at the end of the day, like you said, there's not very many players who covered themselves well that game. Maybe Gravenberch for me personally. I thought it's been absolutely flying, as we'll talk about a little later. But yeah, I don't think Slot himself, the team, anyone really did themselves any favors from that game, and very disappointing. But definitely don't want to get down into the doldrums. But I want to touch in on that topic about rotation, because, as you said, we didn't see any changes for the lineup against Nottingham Forest from the previous games, minus the Kwanzaa one that was addressed in game week 1. Today we saw two changes in Simicas in for Robertson and Gakpo in for Luis Diaz. I felt that personally, Gakpo did an amazing job on the left. I think everyone knows now that that's his preferred position. We know he can do it for the international team. We know he can do it for us. He's been there before. It hasn't always been consistent with the red jersey on. Simicas less so for me, covering himself in glory. I think the first goal has to look at himself. But what do you think, Brandon, of Gakpo and Simicas's performances, and what do you think about the rotation in general that Klopp has shown so far, or the lack of it?
Slot. You said Klopp. I almost did the same thing earlier. I almost said it the same thing earlier. I almost said Klopp when I said Slot's name. Yeah,
Apologies.
our bald Dutch manager, our wonderful bald Dutch manager. I was glad Gakpo came in. I'm glad he performed. Like, I think that would do wonders for him, especially have a really good summer that he had at the Euros. Like, to have, maybe his confidence would be down that he didn't come back already as a starter and that Lucho got the chances. But to him come in, he played excellent. Like I was telling you before the show, I only got to watch the second half at work, and he was immense. He wasn't as good as Grav, but we'll probably get into just how good Grav is at the moment at some point during the show and just heap the praise on him. But yeah, I was very, very happy with how good Cody played. And I think it is going to be, we're going to see a completely different player because I know there were some people in the chat today talking like maybe moving him to like the 10 at the weekend or, playing in a different position. Like, no, let's not do that. Let's give him one position to thrive in. Let's, we saw what we did last year where he was playing as an 8. He was playing as like the left winger, the 10, the 9. He was probably at center back at some point. I don't know. He played every single position imaginable. And it really, I think, sapped him of the season last year of just not really knowing what his role in the team was. And I think we really just need to give him the role to move forward. And seems to be the left wing. It's not a bad problem to have when Lucho's in the form he's kind of been in to start the year. That was the big positive over the weekend for me was just that almost chance in the first half that he had where he nicked the ball on the byline, just not stopping on it and then hitting the post unluckily, and the ball just not finding anybody else. That was like the only good thing from the weekend that I saw was just like the never say die part of Lucho's game. But yeah, the see Cody do the job was good. Simicast, I don't know. He's such a odd player because if he gets a run of games, he really turns into something. Like he turns into like a really good player to have. But his issue is you have to give him that run of games to do it. Like he can't just doesn't seem like he can just come off the bench in that first game perform at a level that we really need him to. It's like he's got to have 3 or 4 games. It's kind of like the Curtis Jones kind of dilemma. It's like Curtis needs that 3 or 4 games to kind of get himself going to that level. And when you're at Liverpool, you don't really get the luxury of having 3 or 4 games to find your feet. And I don't know. I thought he was okay. His shooting was subpar to say the least with that right-footed shot that he put nowhere near anything. And I do think that left-footed shot he put out, I think he was trying to cross it to Mo. I think he was trying to just find the back post with Mo and this Mo didn't gamble on the back post. He still should have been shooting, but I think that's what he was trying to do. But I don't know. I feel like, obviously very positive with Cody's performance, very, middling with Costas.
Yeah, I think he actually had like the most shots of anyone on the team today, which is absolutely ridiculous. But I guess with the way Slot plays with his fullbacks, they can get in those spaces to shoot. Yeah, I don't blame Costas for any missed shots on goal because that's not what we have him in the team for. But definitely agree with you in terms of I feel more comfortable like when he has a run of games. I almost feel like when the players need to step up, whether that's like a Joe Gomez or Costas or anyone really subbing in, like Kwanzaa when he came in, like when we need them to perform for a stretch, 9 times out of 10 they step in and they do the job. Connor Bradley at right back. It's almost like when it's those one-off games when we're just like, oh, we need some rotation. Like, let's throw in Costas for a game. And it's like, that's why he's not starting over Robertson as much as Robertson has his critics. I don't think he's in any danger of losing his spot to Simicast.
Yeah, with Robbo, I think just his leadership part of it is what's really key of keeping him around. I think he can easily kind of, because it's not like Robbo's on insane wages. I mean, he's on incredibly kind wages for the club. It's like 100,000 a month, which is just highway robbery for the club to get a player that's been as good as Robbo for that amount. I think he kind of funnels into that Milner role of just kind of being that leader. Still performs when he needs to perform. I think there's still days where he's the best left back in the world. Those days are maybe fewer and farther between. But it's good to see him get the rest. I think Costas, as you're saying, like those guys stepping up, like right after Robbo got hurt last year, I thought Simicast was really good right heading into the new year. Then he had that unfortunate shoulder injury, I think off a tackle from Saka during the Arsenal game where I think he broke his collarbone. Like that was kind of harsh on him, but yeah, that's been the thing with him is just, it doesn't seem like he can really stake a claim consistently like that. Not, I'm actually outperforming Robbo, or I can actually give him maybe an extended break in the team. It's just always kind of start stop with him.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And it seems like the back four now is pretty cemented with Trent, Kanate, Virgil, and Robertson as the preferred back four. Allison obviously as keeper. And then it kind of gets, I guess Slot has been showing, Gravenberch in the midfield been absolutely phenomenal, and we'll talk about that a little more later. You got McAllister and Szoboszlai. Szoboszlai had a bit of a 50-50 match for me. He obviously got the third goal well taken. People will probably say he shinned it, which he did, but he put himself in the right position to score. On a plate, but still, better than putting it wide. And his passing range was off, but we all know what he's capable of, which I guess is the frustrating part when he's misplacing easy passes and not linking up play well. But then again, back to Gakpo, who came in for Diaz. Diaz, who's been absolutely phenomenal at the start of the season. Jota, for me, was the other one who I thought he had a really great first 3 games of the season, even when he wasn't scoring or getting involved in the I guess direct assist or putting the ball in the back of the net. I thought he made some really good runs in the Manchester United game to draw the attention away or leave spaces open. But he hasn't had the best past 2 games, and that's what I'm going to focus on with the question I'm going to ask you is with Szoboszlai and Jota. Do you think the inconsistent performances are going to be taken in consideration in this idea of rotating the squad for Slot, or do you think this is his starting lineup and it's going to take a lot more to get them out?
I would hope it's not like if it's just the middling performance. I thought, like I said, I only got to watch the second half. Szoboszlai played well. So like I only got to see the first half maybe wasn't the best performance. I liked the ball he played. I think it's when Nunez kind of went through and he tried to get the ball over to Diaz running free and then went out for a corner. I think the ball he played off that was really, really good. It shows that quality he has, and we haven't really seen it for 9 months now. It seems like since the turn of the year, Szoboszlai just, as you were kind of saying, just misplaying easy passes, just not having. He puts the industry in, like he's got the the work rate to do what we're looking for. It's just the things that really should be setting him apart. He's not really performing, and hopefully that goal today gets him turned around. Maybe a little break. I still think of the world of Harvey Elliott, so I really hope that if they're going to be inconsistent, that Slots. He's kind of shown that he can be kind of ruthless. I mean, saying straight up after the weekend. If you're losing at Nottingham Forest at home, there's a problem. Like just, not pulling any punches when it comes to like treating the squad. He treats the squad like adults. He doesn't have to pamper them. He's going to hit them with both barrels if he has to. So I think if, they're not performing, they're being wildly inconsistent, like you can't be up and down, that I think he will be like, no, I got to get somebody else in there who's going to do it. Whether that's Nunez or whether that's Harvey, that's who obviously are the like-for-like replacements, or whether maybe in the midfield you're rotating a little bit more, maybe pushing McAllister up into the 10, or maybe changing the shape a little bit more. I don't know. I really hope he does have a ruthless streak there of like, if you're going to be inconsistent, I can't sit there and start you. You have to perform. I'm putting my trust in you to perform, so you need to be able to perform.
Yeah, 100%. That's something that I wasn't as. I get, you love Klopp, everyone does. One things that I was a little hard on for was I felt like he wasn't ruthless enough, and maybe that's that's part of like the LFC family, that kind of special connection that the club does have, and I definitely don't want to like see people thrown under the bus or not treated fairly, but definitely want that competitive nature in the squad where if you're not performing, it's not like a put down or you're left out to dry. But there are people. We finally have a squad that has enough talent there to not be letting a player perform consistently week in, week out. So for me, I'm very curious to see the starting lineup against Bournemouth this weekend, because I think that it's, for me, if I was going to make a change, I'd say Jota probably. Someone deserves a chance ahead of Jota, and possibly someone deserves a chance ahead of Szoboszlai. But briefly touching on that, we don't have to go into the Bournemouth match too deeply this early in the stream. But do you see Slot changing any of the starting 11 from the Nottingham Forest game for the Bournemouth game this weekend?
What day's the Bournemouth? Is it Saturday or Sunday? It's Saturday. Yeah, Saturday. I would assume Robbo probably comes back into the team over Tsimikas. I would assume. I think the way Cody played tonight, you kind of got to ride that, let him play left wing. I know Lucho's been great, but I feel like he got when they give you that hot game, because obviously Lucho played the Nottingham Forest game. He wasn't great. Nobody, like we talked about earlier, nobody covered themselves in glory. If kind of who performed best last, and it's Cody right now. I'd play Cody at the weekend. So I think the only change I'd really want to make off the top of my head would be Simicus out, Robbo back in. Kind of with you there. I'm still kind of one of those people that really believes that Darwin can be a player. So I want to see him perform. I think I'm kind of getting to that point where I feel like it's more me just wanting it more than it's going to happen, which is sad to say. But I love Darwin. I really think there's such a player there if we could figure out the composure side of his game. I don't know. I do think though Slot's not going to put him up there this weekend. I think it's still going to be kind of much the same lineup except Robbo in, Simicus out.
Yeah, that's fair. And I would probably put money on that if I was gonna bet on that. I would go with that bet. But now that we've discussed the rotation side and covered a bit of the individual player performances, before we jump into highlighting Ryan Gravenberch, just wanted to quickly say thank you for everyone who's joined the stream. We really do appreciate y'all watching each week. And if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat. We'll bring them up and we'll answer them as they come in. Thank you again. And we'll now start on a more positive side. Brendan and I are pretty positive people. If you watch the stream, we're not too negative. I definitely didn't want to brush the Nottingham Forest game under the rug because, I think that's can be a criticism is that like Liverpool looks like the red tinted glasses. Don't want to have those completely on, knowing what happened at the weekend, but from what happened today, red tinted glasses right back on. Definitely back to feeling good, and I think deservedly so. I think the stats for the game were absolutely insane. Like I think it was around like the 60th minute or something like that on the screen. I saw it was like AC Milan 2 shots, 1 on target, and it was like Liverpool like 11 shots on target or something like that.
I was about to bring up the same exact stat line. I think I saw the same time. I was like, God, we are dominating this game.
Yeah, it was a really weird first like 5-10 minutes. I guess maybe obviously AC Milan's up for it. It's the new format. Your home games you don't get to play home and away, so this was the only time we'd see AC Milan in this group stage. So definitely big atmosphere at the start, and then by the end it was just like one guy and like a megaphone like yelling at the San Siro. It got pretty quiet, but for me, someone who's been covering himself and deserves all the plaudits has been Ryan Gravenberch. Got man of the match today, deservedly so. I think Jamie's put Gakpo as one of his man of the match shouts today. I'm pretty sure it was just Gravenberch, but he's been absolutely phenomenal. And we talked about this before with the Zubamendi number 6, like maybe blessing in disguise. But one of the comments that Stephen put in the chat for us to talk about is as Gravenberch continues his meteoric ascension to one of the best midfielders on current form, is he the man to build our midfield around, or do we need to look further than Gravenberch and find some backup or some competition in his position?
In terms of just pure talent, he is the guy to kind of build around. Like, he was a massive talent at a massive club in Ajax who's known for turning out great young prospects, and he was for a while considered one of the best prospects they had. I think there was a list a couple months ago that kind of circulated, or I guess right before, as the season started, about like Liverpool saw 3 midfielders out there that were complete game changers. Or I remember it was Tchouaméni, and I can't remember the other one off the top of my head. Then it was also GRAV was also on that list. They saw like 3 midfielders out there who were complete game changers, and GRAV, Tchouaméni, and then I can't remember who the third one was off the top of my head. But like that shows how much the kind of our scouting department has like thought about him, and like probably really wanted him before he went to Munich. I still don't understand how he didn't thrive at Munich, but that's a Tuchel thing or whatever. I think he is the guy to kind of build around. Anything you're kind of bringing in from this point is to complement maybe kind of give him like roles, because obviously he's good enough to go play what McAllister does. He can push himself up farther up the field if he needs to. We kind of saw that last year where midfielders kind of became more hybrids. Like McAllister played the 6, the 8. He kind of got in behind, or kind of played in behind, almost like not quite a 10, but in that role. So I think we're going to see that more and more. Yeah. Thank you, Muse. Yeah, Jude. Duh. The easiest one to remember, Jude Bellingham. He was the third one. But I think Grav has that game all around where he can play any position in that midfield, and I think he could thrive in any of those midfield roles. So I think if we're bringing in somebody, it's to help complement him, being able to take up different roles. So I think this is the guy to build around. Like his age, his profile, like he's got every strength you'd want. I think I talk about every time I talk about him. He's long, he's strong, he's very technically gifted. His touch is really good. He covers so much ground, like just with long strides. It's just, he's the guy right now, without a doubt.
Yeah, 100% agree. It's hard to like pick any negatives in his performances, and like maybe at most it can be like a positional awareness at times. But as being forced in number 6 in Slot's new system, you can certainly forgive him for any mistakes on learning that position. But as you said, like the technical ability that he brings to his game, and like his ability, for me personally, like my favorite thing is to see him receive the ball with such composure, knowing what's around him and being able to take it on the turn, beat his man, or like find the right pass in the right moment. I think it's those kind of players that absolutely kill other teams' momentum or belief when the pressure's on. And almost like Thiago, like for me, it's like his best ability is like him receiving the ball with so much pressure around him and then being able to do exactly the right thing to relieve that pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And to see, as you said, his age, everything that he has in his locker right now, this young in his career, it's exciting, and it's hard not to hype up even 5 games into the season, because there's been some testing games, Man United, AC Milan away. There's first game of the season against Ipswich. I know people are, again, 5 games in, so keep a little bit of lid on it to an extent. But from what we've seen, he's absolutely exceeded expectations. And even against Nottingham Forest, I thought he was one of the few players who could actually hold their head up after that game. I don't know. My question for you now, though, is if we are relying on him this much already, God forbid there's an injury, but what's the backup to Gravenberch right now?
I think Clem, CT said last week, it was, I think could be something to it, like moving Soboslai back into like maybe that role. Like he's got obviously the industry to play that role, and he's got a good technical ability. I don't think it'd be the best. And maybe moving McAllister. Maybe you can move McAllister over. I don't know. That's the big worry, is always injuries. I know we've been bitten by injuries so much in the past, 4 or 5 years. We've had 2 just massive. And then even last year where we had like that run of injuries right at the like January, February line where everybody was getting hurt, dropping like flies. Because I think I talked about last time I was on here, Indo just doesn't play the game that Slot wants, like the way Slot wants. As much as I love Indo, Curtis is a decent shout. Like I said, we talked about a little bit earlier, like my issue with Curtis is always it takes him 4 to 5 games to kind of get into like he's really giving a good game out there, really playing well. So that's always my worries. Then he's off in a freak injury or just an injury, and then it's like it takes him that 4 to 5 games to get back up to speed. And so I think Dom could take that role. That'd probably put Harvey into that 10 role, which Harvey's hurt right now, I believe. I always forget that. I was wondering where he's at today, then found out after the game he's hurt. I'm like, I completely forgot that happened. But I think, Dom would be the move if we're going to really think outside the box.
No, that's fair. For me, that like the thing that I love about Gravenberch that I'd want to see is just the ability to turn on the ball and be quick with the ball at his feet. I'm not sure. Like Dom definitely has the capacity for that. I totally agree with you. He has the industry to definitely play in that role. I'm trying, like, for me, I'm trying to think of like for Gravenberch, and funny enough, I think, CT just put it in the chat, Morton or Trey and Yoni. I, like, honestly think I'd feel like you give one of them the shot, kinda like a Connor Bradley-esque, and be like, "Hey, this is a like, a specific position we wanna play. We're not" like, it's obvious that he's not trying to force Endo in there, but, like, certain style of player there, Gravenberch has pretty much been the consistent. So that'd be me, but hopefully we don't actually have to face that reality. So I'm gonna stop putting some energy into that Gravenberch injury. Long may he be fit and firing for the Reds. But one of the things we'll touch on now is Slot, the bounce back, which is in the title of the video. Brendan, how important was it that Slot went to the San Siro today after the weekend's performance and got a result?
It's always important. It's always important to see, especially with the new manager, like the bounce back, like as like the title says. It's like, it's very good to see the team can respond to criticism because, like I said, he called him out saying you can't lose at Nottingham Forest at home. It's pretty much inexcusable. Like to kind of call him out that way, and they respond with a very good performance. It wasn't like we got by with the skin of our teeth, or we got nicked an early goal, or we had to like. There was a point in the second half where we definitely weren't doing slot ball. We were kind of playing more clop ball, where it was back end to end, end to end. I think that's right before we scored the third goal. We were kind of getting dragged into a dogfight, and hope probably wouldn't want to see that. But to come back to play San Siro away, one of your first big away games, especially a European night after such a kind of poor performance, to kind of respond the way we do, he's got to be kind of over the moon about that. Like, he's got a team that's going to respond to like his criticisms. He's got a team that's going to respond to his tactics, everything like that. So I think he's going to be really happy with that.
Yeah, definitely. I think Robert McGuire here in the chat too. After going 1-0 down after a few minutes, perfect response. Yeah, that was for me like serious testing point. Like I had timed my breaks well, took lunch at the right time at work, and had my phone like strategically placed to be able to check in when I had the time, and like turned it on and then saw Pulisic get that goal, and I was like, "Oh Lord, let's see how we respond to this." And perfect response. It's I'm curious. Like I think it's like I'm always one. Cause I think I'm trying to remember. It might have actually been last time we played Man U that the memory's coming to me when we won 7-0. I think we lost 1-0 like the next game to I forget. It might have been Nottingham Forest or something.
Bournemouth.
Yeah,
Yeah, because we'd beat Bournemouth 9-0 earlier that year, and then beat Man U 7-0, then lost to Bournemouth like 1-0. Like it was the perfect encapsulation of that weird season. If I'm thinking, maybe I got the dates wrong, but I think that's the same season.
we're thinking about the same thing at the very very least. But for me, that's like one of the things. The videos that I saw of Slot when he was at Feyenoord, speaking to his players. I think they had like a big win over their rivals, and they were about to go on like the last international break before the final stretch of games. And this was the year that they won the Eredivisie league, and he was basically like, "Great win, like really big moment, but this isn't the biggest moment. It's like we have to, go away to international break, do well for your country, but when we come back, we're taking this seriously. We're not letting this just be one big moment each." Like basically, he's like, "Don't get too cocky off this. Like we have X many more games to go." I think for me, that's a very important mentality to like instill in the players. And I almost felt like the Nottingham Forest game was like a throwback to those games we just would waltz into thinking we'd win easily and then get smacked and humbled, like right there. And AC Milan was definitely the perfect response. You can only play that next game and get back on track. But for you, how important are these next games in the Premier League? Because we're not playing anyone in the top four or top six until after the international break, I believe.
Well, hopefully it goes better than last year, because it always felt like anytime we got one of these games and we all got like, oh, we're going to put 5 past them. It was the dog fights, the Luton Towns, all that, which that was kind of the whole thing of last year was nothing easy FC. I want to have easy FC every once in a while. I want to be able to, like, not have to pay attention to every minute and scream and throw stuff and be all pissed off every time we give up a goal we shouldn't. And then it's like, this is going to be a hectic afternoon. It takes 4 years off my life. I want to see just more consistent performances. Obviously, I know we all want to win titles and stuff like that, but I mean, to expect kind of Slot to come in, kind of following Klopp, putting in this new system, like the idea of a title should be like, if everything goes right, everything's kind of got to go a certain way for us to kind of be in that dogfight. That it's more like, I just want to see the continued growth in this team and see certain players taking up these roles, stepping forward in their career, stepping forward in this system. These next few games are great opportunities for those players to really like put their stamp on what this team can be. Go out there and perform against the Bournemouths. I think got Wolves coming up. I know we got West Ham in the Cup. We have a lot of games that we should go out there and perform and win, even if with 7 out of 10 performances. Like, I want to go see 8, 9 out of 10 performances. I want to see every single team being treated like it's a big game. It's a big moment for us to kind of show, Klopp was incredible for this club, but this is a new era, and we're going to be a big part of that new era, because I think Steven kind of says it in the chat all the time, like everybody's kind of on a 12-month kind of trial here to see if you're going to be part of this club moving forward. So like every single game kind of matters for you if you want to be a part of one of the greatest clubs in the world, in my opinion, the greatest club in the world moving forward.
Yeah, 100%. It makes me, I always think back to the Suarez years, just because I feel like every time we played like Norwich or something, he was just like ready to pat his stats. He was like, "Thank God I have this scrub team. I'm gonna kill them today." And I'd play like Cardiff and get a hat trick, Nottingham or Norwich get 4 goals. Like,
I, I remember watching that Norwich game where he scored like 2 of the greatest goals I've ever seen in the same game, like the half volley from 45 yards, and then the one where he flicks it up to himself and just a perfect strike. Like, it's stupid how good he was, especially against Norwich, and how upsetting that probably was for Norwich fans. It's like, we can't beat him for nothing. He's just going to do this to us all the time. He's going to be such a bully to us all the time.
for me, that's always like the bar of like what I, at least in terms of maybe not ability, but mentality for a player, like that hunger, like an absolute killer. And that's kind of what I want to see from the players moving forward. Like you said, like taking these games one at a time, taking each game seriously. But real quick, just to um, get perspective in here, what for you would be a successful season for Slot first season in charge?
I think I'd be incredibly satisfied with, like, if I hate to say like, oh, second place is first loser. That's what I've learned from what was that, Ricky Bobby? I think that's what he said. So if you ain't first, you're last, I guess. That's what he said. No, I think, if we came in second, if we, get past Arsenal, like, we've shown true growth. We're kind of closing that gap with Man City. Obviously with Pep's kind of impending departure, obviously we don't know what's going to go on with the charges and stuff like that. Like, I think to show that type of growth and kind of step forward, because obviously we finished third last year, to move into second with a new coach, new system, some new players playing different roles, kind of really gives us an incredible springboard to go forward in the next like 2, 3, 4 seasons. And also makes us a much more attractive for big players who need moves that fit our criteria. Like, instead of choosing Real Madrid, like Chouameni, Jude, stuff like that in the past, it's like, no, Liverpool's the place to be. I think that would be incredible if we can. Champions League is one of those where I think it's much more likely we can win a Champions League before winning the league this year, because obviously anything can happen in these. I'm not even sure how the knockout stages work anymore with the new format. I think it's all, I haven't figured it out yet. It's a whole 38 teams or 40 whatever teams going on. I can't figure it out. I'm not smart enough. I am Swiss from heritage, but I didn't inherit how this model works in my brain. So I mean, eventually I'll figure it out, but it's still like one-off games, 2-tie games and stuff like that in the knockout stages. Anything can happen in those type of games. So I really think if we can make a really deep run in Champions League, that would be really great. If we can win the whole damn thing, that'd be incredible. Second place in the league and a Champions League would be just an incredible season for us.
For me, I think Trent said this once. He's like a minimum 1 trophy a year.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's like, and that for me is the bar, because I think like those are the days you remember. For me, one of my favorite trophies under Klopp was the Klopp Skids trophy. Like,
Mhm.
that was absolutely epic, amazing day. No, it's the League Cup and not the biggest trophy one, but that's a day I'm always gonna remember. And for me, if Slot can get one trophy under the belt, he's already on par with Arteta in
Yeah.
terms of achievements.
And you see
In
Ten Hag
Premier League.
are bragging about one trophy a season, and it's like, I mean, you have to give it to him. I mean, he's bragging about it. It's like, well, they are, finding ways to win things. So, I mean, it probably won't
Hey,
last, but
that's where I was like, he's right. He sounds like a petulant child trying to fight off like actual criticism, but technically he's right. He has two trophies in the past 2 years, and no one else other than City can say that. So, what are you gonna say to that? But we'll take a look into the comments now. I see there's a few questions here. Santiago, I'm gonna come to your second. I just want to address this Rabona Reds because it directly correlates to what Brandon and I were just talking about. What did we do in the summer to close the gap between us and Arsenal slash 115 FC and City? Brandon, do you want to take that one, or do you want me to go for it first?
I think it might have been cliche, or might be what a lot of people want to hear. The biggest piece of business we did was Arne Slot. That was the biggest piece of business. I know some people won't be happy with that. They want players. I totally get it. I'm with you to a certain point, Rabona Red. I really wanted a couple other players in the door, but I do want to trust Slot. I think closing the gap. Um, Part of that is obviously the unknown with 115 FC. And then the other part is how close Arsenal got to the title last year and losing, how much that plays on their psyche. That's a team that collapsed twice, like in the past couple seasons, where what they should have been top four a few years ago, and they kind of really played like garbage down the stretch and ended up getting fifth. They were ahead of Man City a couple years ago. They ended up finishing second. They kind of, they're not the strongest mentality team. They can change that this year, possibly. I don't think so. I think, fool me once, fool me twice type stuff there. But yeah, I think really what we closed the gap is we've got a new coach, a fired up coach. Because, I mean, as much as I will love Klopp, I love Klopp to my dying day. He's like one of my favorite human beings of all time. Um, the second half of last year kind of showed that it did feel actually time to move. As much as we want to say, well, we got this whole new team, why would he want to move on now? It did feel like it was time. So, I mean, we've got a team that seems re-energized. We have a team that fought Man City tooth and nail twice to, be pipped by 1 point. To have that kind of re-energized, I think we can really close the gap that way. Like, we still have incredible players.
I totally agree with that, Brandon. That's was going to be my answer with Slot. Obviously, we went for Zubamendi in the end, and that was really embarrassing. The collapse. The silver lining was the emergence of Gravenberch's opportunity and him taking it. But I'll just address the follow up. Rabona Red said, "Do you think Slot can get more mileage out of the squad than Klopp, the one who built this team?" My answer is yes. I think, as Brandon said, the Klopp and the team were getting tired. It did feel like the right time. The fact that Klopp himself came out and said his energy levels were, low, like he was running out of gas. I think he compared himself to like a F1 sports car where everything looked fine on the outside, but he was running low on gas, about to run out. I think that carries through in the team, like the mentality, the fatigue, 8, 9 years with Klopp. I think that new person in charge, new ideas, young manager, relatively Slot, that can do a lot to invigorate the squad. Seeing the likes of Gravenberch step up. Not to say Klopp would have never given him that opportunity, but this is a chance of change, and that can bring a lot of new energy and momentum. Maybe we won't get, the Premier League title this year or Champions League this year. You never know, but Klopp didn't get that either of those in the last, I guess, 4 years, 4 or 5 years, 4 years for the Premier League. So it's been a while since we won a major trophy, and I think Klopp himself saying that he was done says a lot. So for me, getting the right manager in is the biggest improvement that we could have done to close that gap for Arsenal and City. But that being said, I'll go back to one of the components of that squad and back to Santiago's question. Hey guys, cheers from a fan from Argentina. do you think that Alexis is playing better in this midfield with this midfield? Brandon, what do you think about that? Alexis McAllister, Gravenberch in the six, him playing a little more advanced. How do you think he's fitting into the system so far?
I think he's doing very well. Alexis obviously is a talent to do just about anything in the midfield. I love Alexis. He hasn't hit the heights that he hit like towards the end or kind of in that springtime last year, but the heights he was hitting in springtime last year had everybody starting to talk about Stevie G. That's how good he was for a few months, like a few weeks there. Like you can't really expect a player to be Stevie G good in a Liverpool uniform all the time. Even Stevie G, you can't even expect that from. Like it's just, special players. I think the world of Alexis, but I think he's been fantastic. He's a great player to have alongside Grav because he is so versatile. So as Grav kind of has to go through, because he's going to have to go through growing pains at some point with kind of being this type of position, which he's never really done that much before. I think he's probably the perfect player to be playing alongside Gravenberch right now.
I totally agree. I think I got really excited towards the to the latter half of the season with McAllister. It really felt like he found his feet, and we definitely know his qualities. So I think that this midfield will definitely bring it out for him. He can have a little more of his technical abilities and his skills being shown through in the position he's playing now. Klopp had him in the number 6, which didn't seem like his favorite. I think he actually said in an interview too that it wasn't his favorite position, but definitely excited to see his development this year as well. Quick question from Liverpool 12th Man. Do you ever do call-ins on this channel? We do not, that I'm aware of. I don't think we have the capacity for that with the software that we have. But if you do have any questions, please drop them in the chat. We will answer them and bring them up. Definitely appreciate, again, take the time now to just really appreciate everyone who joins in these streams each week. Brandon and I, everyone who's part of the stream, Colin, CT, Rigo, Dan, everyone who's a part of these Star Stripes Anfield Nights streams each Tuesday are really happy with the participation and everyone who's watching. So thank you for being a part of the channel. And I'll move on to Jay Muse's question here. Were you surprised Darwin did not start today? And will we see more of Chiesa in the coming weeks as well? Brandon?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised, but I was also surprised at the team over the weekend of the lack of rotation. So I kind of thought, well, he'll rotate, I guess, for Milan, I guess, a little bit more on Tuesday, especially with the performances. To not see Darwin start, I'm not sure if it's a complete warning sign that, he's not favored, or if it's just that, Slot wants to kind of get him more ingrained to what he wants from a center forward before kind of throwing him out there. Because as we all know, Nunez is a bit of a untamed stallion, so he can be a pretty wild and he can buck a little bit. But maybe he's trying to kind of mold him a little bit before he kind of unleashes him as his actual striker, or maybe finds a different role for him. Maybe he goes out on the right for Mo, or maybe goes on the left a little bit, which I think we've talked about quite a bit. With Chiesa, I think the West Ham game will be his first start. I think that's the first time we'll see Chiesa like from the start of the game. I think right now it's more integrating him. He kind of came in late, kind of getting him more kind of up to speed of what everybody wants. See who he has the best, chemistry with, kind of see who he plays the best with, where he's going to kind of fit in. I think the West Ham game is where we'll see him get his first start. I think that's where we unleash the Italian with the craziest eyes of all time.
Definitely hope to see more of him. And I don't normally swear on the channel, but damn, Rabona Red, that is harsh. Is Chiesa Slot's Arthur Mello's signing? No, I do not think so. I think Arthur Mello played was it 11 minutes of that one game, and then didn't see him at all for the rest of the season.
It was who was Brendan Rodgers' Mello son? Probably remember what was his name? Asidi?
Yeah,
Moroccan who came in out of nowhere. Then we saw him twice. And the best thing he ever did was score a goal for Stoke City against Chelsea as we were chasing the title. That was the only thing he did for Liverpool was in a Stoke City jersey.
I think, even Nuri Sahin, maybe there were Milan Giovanni, or no, I'm getting further back. That was last years. I'm losing it here. But I want to chime in on Jay Muse's comment about Darwin not starting. Actually, similar to you, Brent, I was surprised he did not start against Nottingham Forest because I thought that a lot of the players who had time under Slot during the preseason got the go ahead to the start of the season. Like once is one that I'm thinking of, and I'm trying to. What's it? Gravenberch came back a little late, but all right, I'm blanking, but I thought that Nunez definitely would have started against Nottingham Forest, and then I was not surprised today that he didn't start because I didn't think he was going to mix up the squad, especially after the performance against Nottingham Forest. I thought he was going to play a pretty close to full strength squad, but we'll see. Definitely hoping, as agree with you, Brandon. I think we'll see Chiesa start against West Ham. I do hope he gets more of like the 30-minute cameos that we've seen from Nunez, Gakpo, and others so far in the Premier League. We'll see if that happens. But let's see. Appreciate the comment here, Richard. Definitely really appreciate everyone in the chat. Really appreciate your comment. Hopefully we're spitting knowledge that I'll at least enjoy, maybe not agree with, but we definitely are entitled to have your own opinion. Please let us know if you disagree. We love the communication in the chat, and again, appreciate everyone who's watching and chiming in. Let's see. Well, okay. Brandon, you were able to go to the preseason match, correct?
I was not. I was not able to go. I remember I had tickets to see Liverpool Dortmund at Notre Dame, and then it was like last second I realized I actually had to work, so I hadn't had anybody cover my shift. So I tried to get anybody to cover my shift. Nobody could, so I had to like eat the tickets, and it was the saddest because that's like my biggest regret. I never got to see a Klopp-led Liverpool team. I've never actually got to see Liverpool live, so that's. I kind of want to go see Anfield first before I see him in a preseason game. I kind of want to do that odyssey or that pilgrimage over to the Church of Anfield.
That's fair. I know that a lot of the LFC transfer room guests and hosts they go to the games as much as possible. A lot of season ticket holders. I think Kev is a season ticket holder.
Yeah, I think today.
Yeah, he was at Milan today. Yeah, I've gone to a couple Premier League games. I've seen a couple Champions League games. Definitely glad that I pretty much spent all my high school job money on my first game, and I've been able to make the pilgrimage a couple of times. But definitely can't wait to hear about your first experience at Anfield, Brandon, when you get there. Let's see. Well, I guess we're getting towards the end of the stream. Brandon, is there anything that you want to touch on before I start asking final questions?
Let's see. I'm trying to think. I have to say, I think I talked about it after the first game where I didn't get to watch like the first game of the season. Like the first game I got to watch in full was the Forest game. So like I haven't got to like watch Liverpool as much as I wanted to this year. Like I've only got to catch bits and pieces. Like today, the Szoboszlai goal was the first goal I've seen us score like live today. Like it's been kind of rough with work lately in terms of like finding time to get focused in. So I was kind of scared that I was not able to watch Liverpool anymore because the only game I got to watch was the loss and I missed the actual 3 wins. As much as it would have pained me, I would have sacrificed for the team if they lost today. I'm like, that's it. Like I can't like I'll let you guys win and I'll just have to sit there and listen to it in the other room like a good superstitious American. It would have been beautiful.
Oh, well, now that you've finally broken your hoodoo, I remember you saying that. Like you can start watching games again.
Yeah. I'm excited for the weekend. I'm excited for the team. Obviously, winning the first game of the Champions League, it's a great step forward. I think they're kind of saying winning 5 games in this. Like 8 games we got to play. It's like winning 5 is kind of like the target most teams kind of have in their head. If you get to 15 points, you'll be where you need to be to get into the next round. I thought quite a few teams looked good today. I know Munich put up 9 in their game. So, I mean, like, it's going to be an interesting thing, kind of getting used to the whole new format. Like, I still don't, like I talked about earlier, I still don't quite understand what's happening. But eventually we'll figure it out, and we're going to have to get used to it because it's the future, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Best I can guess is it's like the top 8 teams like advance directly into the quarterfinals. The middle 8 have to play like a knockout round, or maybe directly to the round of 16. The middle 8 get the first knockout games.
Or would it be the middle 16?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The middle 16, and then the bottom 8, I guess, get dumped out. But we'll see. This is actually a really interesting question. I don't know if we're the best to answer this, but I do want to address it based on the question that Richard asked earlier about Brandon and I catching games. So, any comments on the atmosphere at Anfield and why it seems down? I went to a game last year, West Ham away. I believe we won, or not believe, we won 2-1. West Ham scored first. I think it was Paqueta maybe who scored the first goal. Then Gakpo scored, and MOTM actually got the game winner with a header. But I had gone to games, I think the previous game I went to actually, so that was the 1 o'clock game I saw. The last game I saw was Liverpool Arsenal, one of Brendan Rodgers' last games. So a while back, and it was 0-0, but the atmosphere was great. And I definitely noticed that the atmosphere wasn't like as like raucous, and I honestly don't know. I think Anfield Agenda, Craig from Anfield Agenda. I'm not a huge fan of that channel all the time. There seems to be a lot of negativity, but I think he addressed that question really well. He basically said it's a combination. A lot of people are saying visitors and tourists are at fault for the Anfield atmosphere, but he was talking about the responsibility of the home fans as well. I think it's like a team effort. I think that if you go to the games, wherever you are, if you're local or visiting, you have to give it your all. I don't know. As Brandon said, like, he hasn't been to a game yet, but I know for a fact you're going to be screaming your lungs out when you get there.
Yeah, I am like 100% dead set that like once I walk out like on the terrace and like see the actual pitch and like really understand that I'm at Anfield, I'll probably will cry. Like I am 100% like fine telling people that like I will probably cry the moment I step out and look at Anfield. I think what people call the tourists in Boston for like Red Sox game, they call them the pink hats. That's when you know that there's people who don't actually care that much about. They just want to be at Fenway. They call them the pink hats. So I don't know if we can get that started or not.
Yeah, it's definitely like you can see it. There's definitely people who go to the games now looking to be entertained rather than support. That's why I call a lot of Americans fans, not supporters. As a lot of games you go to, it's like looking to be entertained rather than supporting. So there's definitely, I hope it gets resolved, but best thing I could say is like if you're going, learn the chants if you don't know them, do your homework, and
yeah, because I want to be in like the Cop if there's a way to. Not sure how the tickets work and stuff like that, like how easy it is, but I would love to be in the actual Cop for like the whole game. But I also think part of that would probably be Klopp leaving because Klopp's such a high emotion type of guy. The crowd really fed off him, and obviously it's just kind of changing. I think it's going to improve. It's going to have to improve just with more time. I think it's going to eventually come around. Is just obviously it's a big hole in the club right now is the Klopp leaving. So it's like we're kind of relearning our ways a little bit.
Yeah, it's really a really interesting question. I'm really curious to see how it develops because I think I said it earlier in the stream. I was watching the game, Brandon, and like the San Siro had a really raucous atmosphere for like the first 10 minutes. And then as soon as Liverpool started coming back, I think I said it was like it's a joke, but it's also serious. There's like one guy on a megaphone, pretty much, like it seemed like for the rest of the game. So it doesn't seem like it's just like a Liverpool, Liverpool centered problem. I definitely think that maybe modern entertainment culture is kind of seeping into the Premier League and abroad. But I guess we'll see, and hopefully the environment and the atmosphere is able to survive. But we'll see. Times changing, but hopefully that doesn't. But we'll wrap up. We touched on this before, so we'll just go and wrap up with the West Ham EFL Cup prediction in line. Or actually, we touched on Bournemouth, so we'll go to the West Ham. I believe we'll have a chance to talk before that game, but just as a fun question to wrap up, as we mentioned, squad rotation. Who do you see for the starting 11 in this EFL Cup against West Ham?
I think that's where you'll see the most heavy rotation yet. I think you'll probably see, I don't know, with Kelleher's comments like a couple weeks ago, whether Slot will maybe give like Yaros a run or whether he'll keep Kelleher in goal. You'll see probably Bradley start. I'd expect you see Kwanzaa come back into the team, which I thought would have happened over the weekend. Hopefully that's not more of a thing where he just doesn't trust Kwanzaa at all. Because I think quite a bit of Kwanzaa. Hopefully he'll be back in the team. It's always the left side is like, do you take Virgil out? I don't want Virgil playing every single game, but at the same time, it's like, who do you have that's going to replace Virgil? Where do you put Joe in there? Like, I'm not 100% sure. Left back, I assume Costas. And then the midfield would be fun. I would think maybe Tyler Morton gets a run out. I think we talked about last time that, if it became between like Morton and Endo, I'd probably go Morton before Endo would play. So maybe Morton starts out from the beginning. We have so many midfielders that I can't think of right now to play alongside him. Then I think Chiesa on the right, Darwin up top. Hopefully Harvey's back to play behind them. Maybe we see Trainioni actually in the midfield starting as well. He could be a good shout. But I think with it being West Ham, that's always my issue. It seems like Liverpool always draws one of the other Premier League teams early in the competition. They never get, no offense to teams like an Oxford United or somebody like that, where it's like, okay, we can maybe we can give a few different kids a different option. Definitely start Neoni or definitely bring him on or something like that. It's like, oh, we're going to be playing West Ham. Obviously, we want if we want to continue, we're going to have to put out a pretty good team. But then we said that last year and we thumped them 5-0 with our B team in the cup. So I don't know. Harvey won't be back till November. Oh, that just broke my heart, Rabona Red. Jesus. Oh, that just destroyed me. That ruined my entire day.
No, I agree with it. West Ham's one of those teams where if they show up, they can absolutely shock you. Or like you said, I think we rolled them over 3-0, something like that, and it was like didn't even show up. But I'm on the fence of wholesale changes. Like I think a lot of the other guys were asking the other week were saying like they'd throw in like academy players and youngsters, and I'm very much more along the line of bench players. I'd still even like to see like maybe a Kanate and Kwanzaa and maybe Gomez or Simicast at left back. Kind of Bradley at right back, but I wouldn't want to make wholesale changes. I'd want to maybe a first team starter in each of the rows, like defense, midfield, attack, just because I think this is a winnable trophy and one we shouldn't get knocked out in the early stages, because if that ends up being all that Slot wins his first year, I'm going to be super stoked. So I don't think it's something that should be passed over. I don't think he'll take it lightly either. So we'll see. But let's wrap up with the Bournemouth prediction. Brandon, what's your score prediction for Bournemouth this weekend?
Now that my duck is over, and now that Liverpool can finally score when I'm watching, it's going to be 6-0. The floodgates are open, and they're just going to be scoring for fun. It's going to be 9-0 again, just like a couple years ago. But it's not. It's probably going to be, I'd say 2-0. 2-0. I think it's going to be a pretty kind of straight by the numbers kind of game. We'll score it probably the 30th, 40th minute, and we'll score something in the second half. Make it 2-0. I think the way we control games is, I feel a little bit better. The way we close out games feels much better. I think this is definitely a game we should be winning 2-0. Let's not go crazy.
Yes, I'm gonna agree with you on that. Definitely had our serving of humble pie this past weekend. Hopefully we had enough of it. 2-0, nice and easy. Not heart attack Liverpool, but nice, easy, safe. Boring last 20 minutes. Rabona Wet Red throwing out the 1-1 prediction.
No.
I hope not. I hope you got rid of that negativity there and just
If
like
you
put
keep
it
your
out there.
expectations there, you can always get to celebrate more. So, I mean, it's kind of a smart move. So, if we're always going to draw every game, but then we start winning every game, it's like, I'm always happy.
That's fair. That's fair. Brandon, thank you for joining tonight. And again, thank you everyone in the chat for joining, everyone who put in their comments, everyone who's watching. We really appreciate y'all joining in. Appreciate you watching the stream. Our Star Stripes Anfield Night show is every Tuesday. I believe it is at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We stream every day on LFC Transfer Window or LFC Transfer Room. Please, I only ask this once a stream because I hope y'all enjoyed the stream first and foremost. But if you did enjoy it, please like, subscribe, share if you want to. And again, just thank you for joining us tonight. Hope you have a great week, and hopefully we can all celebrate a win and be positive when we see you next Tuesday. All right, everyone. Have a great